With groundbreaking visuals and immense scale, Metropolis has stood the test of time as one of the most influential films ever made, and you can see echoes of its architecture, ideas and scenes in almost every modern science fiction film. But why is the imagery presented by Fritz Lang in 1927 still so relevant today? And what separated Metropolis from the science fiction films that came before it? Earlier science fiction films, such as A Trip to the Moon by George Méliès, played science fiction for laughs. Fritz Lang created the first serious science fiction epic, giving us a fascinating glimpse into the future that was also a biting social commentary of the present. So let's take a look at some of the many ways that Metropolis shaped science fiction as we know it today. Hello and welcome to 100 Years of Cinema. We'll be taking a look at least one film a year from 1915 to track the evolution of film over the last century. When Metropolis first premiered in Berlin in 1927, it had a runtime of around 2.5 hours, and although the film is revered today, it received mixed reviews at the time, with many critics praising it for its visuals, but criticising the film for being too long and complicated. This meant that for its American release the same year, it was cut down to around 1 hour and 55 minutes. It was later cut again in April to remove all communist subtext and religious imagery. By 1936, when the film was archived by the British Museum of Modern Art, only 91 minutes of Fritz Lang's original 210 remained. Over the years, new footage emerged, but it was variations of this shortened version that the vast majority of people saw until 2008, when an almost complete version of the film was found in an archive in Argentina. This is important. The earlier, edited versions of Metropolis, seen by most people, didn't make a great deal of sense story-wise. Characters' motivations were completely erased, new cuts changed the tone and meaning of scenes, and some crucial plot points were left unresolved. For example, all reference to hell. The late wife of John Friedison were removed for being too close to the English word for hell. This made the actions of the inventor Rotwang confusing and unmotivated. Because of this, Metropolis didn't really influence how we tell stories. Instead, it influenced the visual codes of cinema. It changed what science fiction looks like, and shaped our collective vision of the future. People were blown away by the vivid world built by Fritz Lang. The new Tower of Babel standing tall in a city of light, starkly contrasted with the dark, subterranean workhouses of the poor. The film's architecture itself is as much a character as Rotwang or Maria. If you removed all dialogue, action and characters, you would know everything you needed to know about the world by looking at the buildings alone. The busy highways and biplanes convey a sense of urgency and speed, and show us the interconnectedness of a city of the future, while the unknowing, uncaring machines of the subterranean city tell us we're in a world where industrialization has been taken to its logical conclusion, where human beings are expendable so long as the wheels keep turning. The buildings and architecture alone tell us that this is a world where it's a life of bliss for some and drudgery for others. And these symbols and visual codes would become written into the DNA of cinema. You can see it pretty much straight away in films like Just Imagine from 1930, which tells the story of life in 1980s New York, complete with skyscrapers, hovercrafts, and an interconnected city with bridges and highways. Metropolis's iconography of an industrialized future, where workers act as cogs in a machine, would later reappear in 1936's Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times. In more recent movie history, Metropolis has influenced the look of iconic science fiction films, including many of the images from Star Wars, from the characters, props, and even cities. Perhaps the film most heavily influenced by the look of Metropolis was Blade Runner. Replace biplanes and blimps for hovering police cars, and you have something pretty close to art director David Snyder's vision of 2019's Los Angeles. Other ideas from Metropolis would also reappear throughout cinema. The mad inventor Rotwang served as the inspiration for James Whale's Henry Frankenstein in the 1931 Universal movie. Completely humanoid robots would be seen again in movies like AI and The Terminator. Not only did Metropolis create the visual grammar for how we see the future, but by combining futuristic Art Deco cityscapes infused with Gothic religious symbolism, including a fight on top of a church, it helped influence the dark tone of fantasy in films like Tim Burton's Batman or Alex Proyas' The Crow. But why is the imagery of Metropolis so enduring? For one thing, the film plays on our fears of the future, a future of industrialisation, where workers have been dehumanised, and this is reflected in what you see on screen. Vast rooms of uncaring machines. It's a future of inequality, where the working class live in drab, subterranean structures, while the ruling class live in a clean, bright city. But it's also a future of hope, of amazing technology, of bright lights and new possibility. And it was in Fritz Lang's combination of these things that changed the way that we see the future. Thanks for watching 100 Years of Cinema. What's your favourite film set in the future? Let me know in the comments below, and please subscribe so we can travel through the next 100 years of film together.